the silent arrival Captain Marcus Valdez stood frozen on the observation deck of Lunar Station, watching humanity's worst nightmare unfold in perfect silence. The alien vessel stretched across Earth's horizon like a metallic storm cloud, its obsidian hull rippling with symbols that hurt to look at directly. No communication. No demands. Just presence, vast, malevolent, and utterly alien. "Sir, the energy readings are off the charts," reported Lieutenant Zara Okafor, her voice barely steady. "Whatever that thing is, it's not just a ship. It's alive." Marcus gripped a railing as the first wave of black orbs descended from the vessel's underbelly. Each sphere was no larger than a basketball, yet where they touched the megacity of New Geneva below, entire blocks simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased, as if they had never been. "Time distortion detected," announced Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the science station. "The orbs aren't just consuming matter, they are devouring temporal energy. The affected areas are experiencing chronological collapse." The communication array crackled to life. General Patricia Voss's voice cut through the static from Earth Command. "All units, we're dealing with something beyond conventional warfare. The orbs are aging our weapons to dust before they can fire. Nuclear warheads are degrading into inert material mid-flight." Marcus watched helplessly as humanity's finest military technology proved worthless against an enemy that fought with the fundamental forces of existence itself. Fighter squadrons dissolved into cosmic dust. Orbital platforms aged centuries in seconds. The alien ship remained untouched, a monument to humanity's insignificance. "General," Marcus transmitted, "conventional weapons are useless. We need alternatives." "Already in motion, Captain. There's a project, classified beyond your clearance level. Gate 8. If it works, it might be our only chance." Deep beneath the Antarctic ice, something stirred. Dr. Evelyn Cross, the project's lead physicist, had spent 15 years studying dimensional fragments recovered from failed quantum experiments. Her team had discovered tears in reality itself, glimpses into parallel planes of existence where the laws of physics bent to will and consciousness. "Initialize the dimensional bridge," Cross commanded her skeleton crew. "We are going to make contact with the 8th dimension." The ancient machinery hummed to life, powered by exotic matter harvested from the very fabric of space-time. As the portal stabilized, Cross could see into a realm where thought became tangible force, where beings of pure energy once maintained balance across infinite realities. Above them, the alien ship continued its methodical destruction. Humanity had hours, perhaps less, before complete annihilation. But in the depths of Antarctica, Earth's last desperate gambit was about to begin. The bridge between dimensions opened, and Dr. Evelyn Cross stepped forward to meet humanity's only hope, entities that existed beyond death, beyond matter, beyond the three-dimensional prison that confined human understanding. The real war was about to begin, the Forgotten Guardians Dr. Evelyn Cross stepped through the dimensional threshold and immediately understood why her instruments had failed to measure the 8th dimension properly. Here, thought possessed weight, emotion carried kinetic force, and memory itself formed the architecture of existence. She floated in a realm where crystalline structures pulsed with ancient consciousness, each facet containing the compressed experience of civilization spanning millions of years. "Who disturbs the eternal morning?" The voice resonated not through her ears but directly into her mind, carrying the weight of profound loss. Before her materialized a being of shifting light and shadow, neither fully solid nor entirely ethereal. It wore the remnants of what might once have been armor, now translucent and crackling with barely contained energy. "I am Kethmore, last of the Dimensional Wardens," the entity continued. "Once we were protectors of the cosmic balance. Now we are exiles, banished from the lower dimensions for crimes we committed to save them." Cross felt the being's pain as a physical sensation, a crushing weight of responsibility and failure that had endured for eons. Around them, other figures emerged from the dimensional mists: Velthara, whose form flickered between states of matter; Nixander, whose thoughts manifested as geometric patterns in the air; and dozens of others, each bearing the scars of battles fought across realities. "The Devourers have found your realm," Cross said, her words shaping themselves into visible constructs of urgency. "They are consuming Earth, not just matter, but time itself. Our weapons are useless. We need your help." "The Devourers," Kethmore's form darkened with recognition. "We fought them across 17 dimensions before our exile. They are not merely alien, they are entropy-given consciousness, the universe's own immune system turned malignant." Velthara drifted closer, her essence radiating bitter amusement. "Why should we aid those who will eventually fear and exile us as well? Every species we've saved has ultimately turned against us when they witnessed our true power." "Because," Cross said, drawing upon her deepest convictions and projecting them as blazing light, "we're not asking you to save us. We are asking you to remember who you chose to be." The dimensional space around them shuddered. Nixander's geometric thoughts aligned into complex patterns of possibility and probability. "The human speaks truth. The Devourers will not stop with one world. They will consume dimension after dimension until only the void remains." Kethmore's form solidified, ancient armor regaining its former radiance. "The cost of our intervention will be severe. To fight the Devourers, we must channel forces that could shatter your reality entirely. Your species may not survive our salvation." Cross felt the weight of that choice, the possibility that humanity's salvation might require its transformation into something no longer recognizably human. But above them, through the dimensional bridge, she could sense the alien ship's inexorable advance, the systematic erasure of everything she had ever known. "Then we'll face that choice when it comes," she said. "But right now, we are facing extinction." The Wardens exchanged glances that carried the weight of millennia. Finally, Kethmore nodded. "Very well. But know this, the war we are about to fight will be unlike anything your species has witnessed. It will be fought not with matter and energy, but with the fundamental forces that shape reality itself." The Dimensional Wardens began to prepare for war. The sacrifice, the transition from the 8th dimension back to Earth's reality felt like being compressed through a needle's eye. Dr. Evelyn Cross materialized in the Gate 8 facility just as the first dimensional wardens began manifesting in the 3-dimensional space. Their forms struggling to maintain coherence in the lower reality. "Dr. Cross," shouted her assistant, Dr. James Reeves, his face pale with terror. "The alien ship, it's directly above us now. The temporal distortion is accelerating. We are losing entire city blocks every few minutes." Through the facility's reinforced windows, Cross could see the Antarctic sky writhing with unnatural colors as the Devourer's black orbs descended like a plague of locusts. But she also saw something else, shimmering distortions in the air where the Wardens were attempting to anchor their consciousness to Earth's dimensional framework. Kethmore's voice echoed through the facility, though his form remained translucent. "The dimensional barrier is too strong. We cannot maintain sufficient coherence to engage the devourers effectively. Cross's mind raced through the equations she'd spent decades perfecting. The barrier between dimensions wasn't just a physical obstacle, it was a fundamental incompatibility between states of existence. To bridge it required something more than technology. "There's a way," she said, her voice carrying across both dimensions simultaneously. "A living bridge. Someone has to anchor their consciousness in both realities at once." "Evelyn, no," Reeves grabbed her arm. "The human mind can't process dimensional overlap. It would be suicide." "Not suicide," Cross smiled sadly. "Transformation. I've studied the dimensional mathematics for 15 years. I know what happens to consciousness when it spans multiple realities." She moved to the central console, initiating the bridging sequence. Around her, the facility began to resonate with harmonic frequencies that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The warden's forms grew more solid, their ancient armor beginning to gleam with recovered power. "The process is irreversible," Cathmore warned. "Your essence will be scattered across dimensional planes. You will exist, but not as you understand existence." Cross thought of her daughter, studying abroad when the invasion began. She thought of her colleagues, the billions of humans who had never asked to be caught in a war between cosmic forces. She thought of the choice between certain death and uncertain transformation. "I understand," she said, placing her hand on the dimensional resonance core. "Begin the integration." The pain was indescribable, not physical agony, but the fundamental torture of consciousness being torn apart and rewoven across multiple planes of existence. Cross felt her awareness expanding beyond the confines of her skull, beyond the boundaries of her body, beyond the limitations of three-dimensional thought. She was simultaneously in the Antarctic facility, in the eighth dimension, and in the space between realities where thoughts became forces and will shape matter. Her consciousness became a living bridge, allowing the wardens to pour their full power into Earth's dimensional framework. "The bridge is stable," she heard herself say, though. Her voice now carried harmonics that existed in multiple dimensions. "The wardens can fully manifest." Around her, the facility filled with beings of impossible beauty and terrible power. Velthara's form solidified into crystalline armor that reflected light from dimensions beyond normal perception. Nick Sandoz. Geometric thoughts became weapons of pure mathematics, equations that could rewrite the fundamental constants of reality, but the cost was evident. Cross could feel her human identity dissolving, becoming something larger and more diffuse. She was becoming less than human, but also infinitely more. "The transformation is complete," Cathmore announced, his voice now carrying the weight of renewed purpose. "The dimensional wardens are ready for war. But we fight not just for Earth, we fight for the memory of what we once were, and the hope of what we might become again." Above them, the alien ship sensed the dimensional shift and began deploying its most devastating weapons. The real battle was about to begin. War beyond dimensions. The battle erupted across multiple planes of existence simultaneously. Above the Antarctic, the alien ship unleashed torrents of temporal energy, attempting to age the entire continent into dust. But the dimensional wardens met the attack with forces that existed beyond time itself. Captain Marcus Valdez watched from Lunar Station as reality warped around Earth. "What in hell is happening down there?" he whispered, observing energy signatures that broke his instrument's ability to measure. Cathmore manifested in the upper atmosphere, his form now a blazing constellation of weaponized light. He held constructs of pure will at the Devourer ship, equations given form, mathematical concepts that rewrote local physics to turn the enemy's temporal weapons against itself. Velthara contained the dimensional spillover he commanded across. The psychic link that connected all wardens. We cannot let our battle tear apart the fabric of this reality. Velthara's crystalline form expanded into a living barrier, her consciousness forming a dimensional membrane that prevented the exotic energies from cascading into Earth's core reality. But the strain was enormous. She was simultaneously fighting the Devourers while protecting the very dimension she battled within. The alien ship responded by releasing thousands more orbs, each one a concentrated packet of entropy designed to accelerate the heat death of local space-time. But Nixander was ready. His geometric constructs intercepted the orbs, trapping them in mathematical paradoxes that forced them to consume their own temporal energy. The ship is adapting, Dr. Evelyn Cross's voice echoed across dimensions, her consciousness now spread across multiple realities, serving as the Warden's communication network. It's learning from our attacks, developing countermeasures. Indeed, the Devourer vessel was reshaping itself, its hull flowing like liquid metal into new configurations. Weapons emerged that fired not energy or matter, but pure negation beams. That didn't destroy their targets but simply removed them from existence entirely. It's not just a ship, Kethmore realized as he dodged a negation beam that erased a cubic mile of atmosphere. It's a fragment of the void itself, given form and purpose. No wonder conventional weapons were useless. The battle intensified. Warden Zyxthal, whose domain was the manipulation of dimensional boundaries, attempted to banish the ship to a null space between realities. But the Devourer proved too powerful, its very existence an anchor to the concept of cosmic entropy. We need to strike at its core. Cross's distributed consciousness analyzed the enemy's structure. The ship isn't just commanded by the Devourers, it is a Devourer, made manifest in three-dimensional space. Then we fight it as ourselves, Velthara declared, her form blazing with renewed determination. Not as exiles, not as the forgotten, but as what we were meant to be, protectors of the cosmic balance. The Wardens reformed their battle formation, each one channeling their full power without reservation. Kethmore became a living weapon of pure order, his attacks restructuring the chaotic energies the Devourer ship wielded. Velthara transformed into a crystalline fortress, her facete form reflecting and amplifying the attacks of her allies. Nixander's consciousness expanded into a mathematical web that calculated probability cascades, predicting and countering the enemy's moves before they were made. The battle raged across dimensions, visible to human observers as impossible auroras and gravitational anomalies. Reality itself became a battlefield, with the fundamental forces of existence serving as weapons in a war that would determine the fate of countless worlds. But the Devourer ship had one final gambit. It began to collapse inward, concentrating its temporal weapons into a single point of infinite entropy, a weapon that would not just destroy Earth, but remove it from the timeline entirely, erasing it from history itself. It's preparing to fire, Cross warned. If that weapon activates, Earth will never have existed. The Wardens had seconds to act. But their greatest weapon was also their greatest weakness. To defeat an enemy that existed beyond conventional reality, they would have to risk everything they had fought to preserve. The final gambit was about to begin. The memory of war, the Devourer ship's temporal implosion weapon charged with the sound of collapsing eternity. Dr. Evelyn Cross, her consciousness now spanning multiple dimensions, could perceive the weapon's true horror. It wasn't just going to destroy Earth, but reach backward through time to prevent the planet from ever forming, erasing 4 billion years of evolution in a single strike. We cannot stop it through conventional means, Kethmore's voice carried across the dimensional link, heavy with the weight of impossible choices. To counter that level of temporal manipulation, we must become what we once swore never to become. Again. The other wardens understood immediately. Velthara's crystalline form flickered with ancient memories of their last war, the conflict that had led to their exile. The Convergence Protocol. We haven't used it since the Andromeda incident. Because it nearly destroyed 3 galaxies, Nick Sando's geometric thoughts pulsed with warning calculations. The risk of cascade failure is irrelevant, Cross interrupted, her human determination cutting through their cosmic hesitation. If we do nothing, the risk is certainty. At least this way, we're gambling instead of surrendering. Captain Marcus Valdez watched from Lunar Station as the space around Earth began to writhe with forces that had no names in human physics. All stations, prepare for emergency evacuation. I don't know what's happening, but I want every human ship ready to run. The wardens began the Convergence Protocol, a technique that merged their individual consciousness into a single, overwhelmingly powerful entity. One by one, they surrendered their individual existence to become part of something greater and more terrible than any single-dimensional warden. Kethmore was the first to dissolve, his ancient armor becoming liquid light that flowed into the growing convergence. Velthara followed, her crystalline form shattering into infinite facets that reformed as part of the greater whole. Nick Sando's geometric consciousness became the mathematical framework that held the convergence together, preventing it from collapsing into paradox. The process is accelerating, Cross observed, her role as the dimensional bridge allowing her to perceive the transformation. They are becoming something new, not just wardens, but a force of cosmic balance itself. The converged warden manifested as a being of impossible scale and complexity, its form shifting between states of matter, energy, and pure concept. It was everything the dimensional wardens had once been, concentrated into a single entity that existed across all realities simultaneously. The Devourer ship fired its temporal weapon, a beam of pure negation that sought to unmake Earth's entire timeline. But the converged warden met it with something equally devastating, the combined will of every civilization the wardens had ever protected, every world they had saved, every species that had looked to the stars and chosen hope over despair. The collision of forces created a shockwave that rippled across dimensions. On Lunar Station, instruments exploded from overload. On Earth, the aurora borealis appeared at the equator, painting the sky in colors that had no names. In the 8th dimension, the very foundations of reality trembled. But when the cosmic dust settled, Earth remained. The Devourer ship hung motionless in space, its temporal weapon neutralized by an attack that had literally rewritten the laws of physics in the local spacetime continuum. Status report, Cross called across the dimensional link, but received no response. The converged warden had dissolved back into its component parts, but the individual wardens were changed. Their forms were translucent, fading. The Convergence Protocol demands a price, Kethmore's voice was barely a whisper across dimensions. We have expended our ability to maintain coherence in this reality. We fade, but we do not regret. The Devourer ship is neutralized. Velthara confirmed, her crystalline form now more memory than substance. Its temporal core is destabilized. It will collapse into a null space pocket, taking its entropy with it. As predicted, the alien vessel began to fold in on itself, its impossible geometry inverting until nothing remained but a small distortion in space-time that quickly sealed itself. The humans will remember this as the day their weapons failed but their spirit succeeded. Nick Sando's geometric thoughts formed one final pattern before dissolving. That is sufficient. Dr. Evelyn Cross felt her own transformation beginning to reverse, her consciousness slowly condensing back into human-scale awareness. The dimensional bridge was no longer needed, and she could feel herself becoming fully human again, though she would never forget the sensation of existing across multiple realities. Above Earth, Captain Marcus Valdez stared at the empty space where the Devourer ship had been. "This is Lunar Station to Earth Command. The threat is neutralized. Repeat, the alien vessel has been eliminated." In the depths of Antarctica, Cross smiled as she felt the dimensional gate powering down. Humanity had survived, but more importantly, they had proven themselves worthy of survival. The dimensional wardens were gone, but their legacy remained, the knowledge that when faced with impossible odds, the choice to fight was itself a victory. The eighth dimension remembered how to war. But more importantly, it remembered why. In the silence that followed, Earth began to rebuild, carrying within its collective memory the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe and that sometimes, even the forgotten could find redemption in the act of protection. The war was over, but the universe was vast, and somewhere in the dimensional depths, new guardians were being born from the ashes of the old.